Hello, everyone. Good to see
Hey, Amy.
everyone. Hi.
Amy, if I get settled at my dad's place, I may hop on and read, but I just want to support you guys and I want to support David. So that's why I'm here. I'm going to turn my video off
Okay.
and
Well, we appreciate
see you
you.
soon.
Appreciate
You
you.
bet. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, we've got 1 minute. I did post some things in the chat already if you guys want to look a couple of times. The first is our feature poet, David M. Harris, which we're very honored to have today, and our fellow poet so far. And if you want to be on that list, let me know in the chat directly, and we'll go from there. That is very odd. I have an alarm going off on my phone. Okay. And the second, I wonder when that's going to stop. Let's see. That's a first. So I'm like, okay. Okay. It stopped. And we are recording. And I'll just cut that off. Next month, we have Gary Huskisson as our feature poet on October 23rd. And he's from the UK. And it's also going to be costume friendly for Halloween. Let me know if you want to sign up to perform. It'll be 5 minutes. And my Gmail is there, as well as my website with my writings, as well as others. We did anthologies back in the day. And no Gestalt in November, December. We'll be back in January with a full feature poet lineup for the year. And then locally, what we're doing in a live space is a poetry pop-up for Nashville. On October 10th, we have a secret location at 1 p.m. and the location will be sent via email. So if you're local, that's the Poetry Pop-Up Nashville at Gmail is where you go to sign up for that. But welcome, everyone. It's so good to see you. So good to see you. I have someone who'd like to be on the open mic list. I will be right back with you. Okay, now I wanted to start off with a few poems, but as usual, it's audience choice. And I brought a bunch so you can, I won't get to all of it, but just a bunch of things to consider. And so there are two published poems. One's called Animals, and the other one is called The Question of the Egg. Then there's a new poem called Original Sin, and there's a short true story about Jamaica, which is it's a short story, but it's a short story. It's a bit long at the same time. So maybe at the end, if we have time and people want to hear that. So any thoughts about a poem? I've got the new poem, I've got Animals, and I've got internet connection. Let's see. The Question of the Egg, which was just published in Sinew, which is a wonderful celebration of 10 years of poetry in the brew. So what about I just go with Animals? Well, the theme was, send us your darkest work. This one I wrote in college, and I'll tell you the story after the poem. Animals. Blue stretch limo, black windowed, curve of antenna, a fixed boomerang, an extra fly around a pile of dung. Slow-footed cow will moo sincerely when screamed at by the man. Balding willow, a ghost of summer grace, shadows lightly the white double-wide trailer, rusting, the flesh not surprised by rapid fire at the screen door. Blackbird stars spooked together, away. Boomerang receded, wiped clean to a polish. Passionate houseflies feast with inquisitive probing tongues, the stillness of a smile. That's a bit dark, honestly. But it came from a dark happening in my hometown of Cartersville, Georgia, where a gentleman had been gambling too much or something we don't know, but he heard some people outside and he told his family to go hide, and they did, and it was really bad. And so I that was my expression. very sad story. Okay, maybe I'll read something a little more positive. I'm just checking to see who else here. See if David is here. No, not yet. Okay. And let me check my phone. No, that's not him. Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the more recent poem, Original Sin. Okay. This is from the other day. 1. We go to the bar for a drink. He plays guitar well, sings, accompanies you in your pop-up poetry performance. Later with drinks, until they've cut him off, he asks, "Are you a sinner?" "I'm a Buddhist," I say. "I don't think that way. There's darkness and light." "Don't you believe in original sin?" he asks. "No," we say. "Have you ever lusted? Did you ever lie?" We're being put on the spot. We don't believe we're evil after all. We leave the bar just in time before his final judgment. 2. By now, no one is innocent of such histories. No adult, race, country, except innocent children born without blame. We all hold responsibility. It isn't sin we carry in our hearts, but history in our very DNA. We all can be classified as sinners or people trying to overcome. There's no judging, roaming, eyeball following our every move. If we bear witness to the whole of time, not judgment of sin, but compassion, do we drop sin like an old robe to the floor? We are responsible to make the world better instead. 3. The Buddha statue is made with loving hands. Their light and intent follow me from room to room. Offerings, robin's egg, shell, fresh roses, flowers, a rainbow string of glass beads, candle and flame light my vision for the day. The moon escapes me, ancient magic yo-yo pulls us all back and forth. Wordcraft, no spells, but magical thinking. Imagine the awe-inspiring natural world, healing, abundant and well. Don't feed the illness. Make your wishes bright and light-filled. She says, walk lightly on the earth. Feel the pulses of all life connected to you. Feel your own pulse. We are one with all things natural, not overlords, but stewards after all. We all own this concept of original sin. Let judgment go. Let kindness rule your heart and soul. We change the world by breathing. Open wide. Let all the medicine sink in. Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking for, thank you all for being here. David is not here. I'm a bit concerned. What we can do is let's go to the first person on the list. That is Jeff Kaliss. Jeff, are you here?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Would you like me to read?
I would. Thank you.
All right. And I'm glad I have 5 minutes for this, although I actually wrote this poem for 4. It's called For, F-O-U-R, What It's Worth. Thank you for these 4 minutes and these 4 sides to put them in. Thank you for all you can forestall of all of your own thoughts, your own words waiting as they are at the forefront of what you hear me with. What big ears you have, and what big eyes you have, the better to see your screen, where someone who isn't you is taking up your time, your 4 minutes for 4 minutes within 4 sides. And for what? For 4 minutes while your 2 eyes look on. There's no foretelling what moves in your ears because it's not yours, it's ours for 4 minutes. It's what you make of what I share, from what I write, from what I live, and hope you'll like. These words, they bring me near to you when I can't be, when you can't be. We zoom into a room without four walls, with four sides, with one poem for 4 minutes. Can you see me in my words in here? Can I touch your stare? Listen to your listening? Does it work that way for 4 minutes? It's not quite 2 yet. These times have made me miss what you are so and I am not. Tell me what you miss. Who took your love and went to death, or somewhere else, or someone else? Tell me where you go when you're not here. Is that your old school? Your music teacher? Did you like that song? Was that your dog? Your summer job? When you could eat how much you wanted, sweat with whom you wanted, walk the world on naked feet, and laugh at every question? Show me what you read when it's not me. Were these the lines you linked yours to? The verse that had you touch yourself? The published dream that promised you it could be paid for? Play me what you hear within your heart. Was that what made you want? Was that what made you dance? Was that the sound you loved to? That what later brewed your tears? Was that what led you here today? Here where we stay alive and audible, death-defying, life-affirming, still within 3 minutes, not yet 4, still within 4 sides and 2 dimensions. Follow me further. I'll wade you in the ocean I grew up near, never distanced from forever. You'll share my college jokes and picket signs. We'll protest prejudice and rich men's wars. We'll love and talk of love, never really knowing. We'll learn how long life is, how hard it is to fill 4 minutes. I learned, feel deep, think quick, write short. I wonder why. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much for that beautiful, romantic and deep and warm, loving poem. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Propaganda Poet.
Hello, Nashville. How are you guys all doing?
Good to see you. We're doing well. I'm doing well.
I don't know how Jeff Cottrill is in the room soon, not yet, but I thank him for introducing me to the poetry scene down there. I've now been there live twice at a couple of different places, like in person, and now I'm online with you guys a lot. And I just want to tell you all how much I appreciate spaces like this. And I just want to thank the poets, all of the poets and the hosts and the people who make these things happen. And I hope you recognize how far out your ripples actually go and how many lives you have saved. You may not realize that. So thank you all for making the world a better place, because Lord knows the world needs to be a better place right now. So I got a book. I'll put a link in there. It's available. It works it works multiple ways. Like, I can't eat my words and I'm hungry, so if you buy my book, I can eat food. If you don't like my words, you can buy my book and inadvertently make me eat my words, because I'll eat food with the money that you spend on my book. So without further ado, a couple quick things from my book. So this is the title track, if you will, 2020 D Visions. I really don't know what to say anymore. I thought for sure that the world would be better than this, but I guess I was wrong. So I'm going to go write another song, because you see, this world makes no sense to me. so I make music and poetry. I don't know how many other people ended relationships during the pandemic, but you know, it's the in thing. So this is called I Got the Cell Phone Ringtone Blues. I just had to look when you weren't looking. Ill-advised, perhaps unwise, but I just had to see the lies with mine own eyes. 'Twould seem that sometimes stardust is not, in fact, forever. It's probably pointless, but I just wanted you to know you're leaving me with quite the heartache in my soul. You were always my volcano, but I was just your smoke and ash. Um, I feel like it's open season on poetry's and I have a Fight Club mentality and a they live reality. It feels like Sesame Street insanity every time I step out this door. I'm trapped in a capitalist idiocracy, married to rampant religious hypocrisy, with planned obsolescence bureaucracy, inviting the vultures to come on in and feed on the poor. We follow a piecemeal constitution in need of massive evolution. We need a new and improved revolution. They've been milking theirs for hundreds of years. It's time for real reclamation. Let's brand it Reboot the Declaration. Perhaps we can recapture the attention of this nation away from those systematic media spastic fears. We suffer snake charmer leadership because we have prepubescent readership. It's like a sad, sadistic comic strip. We're in a film that's both fluff and stuff. This neo-American dreamscape has been built on congressional class rape. How much more manipulation are we going to take? Just when is enough? Finally, enough. This price is far too high. The end is far too nigh. This will be the time that democracy forgot if we fail to rise up and heed this cry. And then I'll just leave you with one more. I've been doing these like haiku lengths, well, trikus, because let's be honest, like 575 is not a haiku. I'm sorry, I hate to be that guy, but there's haikus, tankas, senryus, so I do trikus. I just try to do them all. I do 575 and try to do them. So these are triku chain stories. This one is called Evolution, not Revolution. America Now, Handmaid's Tale, and Jesus Wept, 1984. We must keep digging until we feel something else. This pain must not win. Round and round we go. I'd rather not be your foe. No room there to grow. If we normalize humanization, perhaps things might get better. Ambiguous sun rising over the scorched earth. Soon, Mother will wake. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for encouraging my behavior. Thank you for having these spaces for us. I can't wait to listen to the rest of the poets. Thank you. I got books, CDs, YouTube. I'm a starving a starving artist who, so thank you all.
Wonderful, powerful poetry. Thank you. Peaceful poetry too. I love evolution instead of revolution. Been thinking that since college in the 80s. Oh, lots of systems. Got to flip it. Let's see. I've got to check who's next. I got distracted. Okay, now we have Bruce Jennings. I believe he's here. There you are.
Hi.
Hi.
I didn't realize that I would have an opportunity to share a poem. Would you like me to share one?
Would love that if you want to.
Great. Yeah, no, I'm happy to. This is a poem that was actually just published a couple of days ago in the Tabula Rasa literary journal that Vanderbilt puts out. And it's called The Nothing That Is. And just a word before I start. It's inspired by a line from Wallace Stevens, of course, but it also tries to relate to a Japanese art and design form. Hako no bi appreciates beauty in white or unoccupied space. This is sort of a poem that takes place as one is looking at a particular painting. Find a place of focus in a place of absence. Into empty white sky, a tree branch reaches out from a trunk, unseen, if there at all, unrooted in any soil, unsupported by any embrace. How can it extend so? How bud or seed pod open thus, unless the emptiness itself is solid? Learn to grow as you lie upon it. White-haired mountain, old, sacred in the distance, half hidden in mist, fading off an edge of the earth, gazing over, past, through you, searching for its emptiness in yours. Red sun suspended in unpainted sky descends toward mountain to a light upon the summit, or slide behind it, erasing as it goes. Is it a sun at all, or the red ball of Nagasaki, just after the great flash a world ago, that left the undrawn, unpainted vast we now contemplate, and before which we stand? Thank you.
You are so welcome. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. All right, next we have Celia Lisset Alvarez.
Okay. I
Welcome.
apologize in advance because there's a thunderstorm going on,
Okay.
and you might hear a huge thunderclap while I'm reading.
Okay.
So I'm going to read to you from my new book. It's called Multiverses, and it's about the death of my son, who died at 26 days old. But it's also about a lot of other losses that I experienced during that time. And every poem is titled version 1.2 or 3.0 or something like that, because of the concept of the book, which is that I tell one story as a memoir, what truly happened, and then other stories where there's a tiny change that results in, a completely different story. So I'm going to try to pick a poem that reads well on its own. This one is not about my son. It's about a miscarriage that I had before I had my son. It's called version 0.44. According to the doctor, you were nothing but a chemical mass of cells, not even really an embryo. Failure, rejection. Did you have a soul? Was that soul inside me the night we went looking at the graffiti murals in Midtown? Were there two of us walking in the dark, gazing up at the dazzling walls, marveling at the depth and breadth and height, monstrous men and women, geometric figures, homages to Wilma Flintstone, LeBron James, and Bob Marley? A cement block geography of pop, Miami's pink guts rendered in swaths of primary colors and tagged indecipherably by artists smart enough to know that what matters is the art. What part of you is visible in the picture we took in front of the 10-foot insect woman? Tendrils of her hair glistening in silver spray paint under the street lights. I search my face, my picture smile, always so contrived. Is there some trace on my lips of you, a seed already curling into a tadpole? The baby website says you had a dividing heart, chambers getting ready to beat and pump blood. I had signed up for the November birth club, and they still send me their hapless bulletins, trying to tell me what's going on in my uterus this week. How much of you is left in me now that I've bled out your non-life, non-soul chemical self? When I go back to Midtown, the insect woman mural is gone, some robot future in blacks and reds in her place, some dystopian vision. They do that sometimes, paint over the murals. No trace left of the art underneath. That other painter who spent God knows how very long dreaming, planning, measuring, coloring the vast canvas of the city and then standing back, maybe only for a moment, in that mute blush of satisfaction, invisible in the deep black empty night. Thank you. Do I have time for one more? Let me see. After my son died, I went on a rampage of throwing out everything in my house. So this is about throwing away an old printer, and it contains lines from Sylvia Plath's Lady Lazarus that many of you will probably recognize. It's called, whoa, did you hear that one? It's called version 1.80. Getting rid of the daisy wheel printer turns out to be harder than I thought. The man in the charity truck won't take it, says they wouldn't want it anywhere, lady. But it still works, I assure him, realizing that you'd somehow need to be able to hook it up to a computer that spoke the same Boolean dialect, or could ingest that floppy pancake I managed to find in the back of the closet under a stack of TV guides with Star Trek covers. Where would you even get those endless scrolls of paper with the holes down the sides that would fan to the floor at 3 a.m. after I'd finally finished that thesis on the last of the Mohicans? DMP 240 is both too old and too new, simultaneously a relic and a piece of junk. It will sit a few weeks at the recycling facility, surrounded by VCRs and Laserdisc players, all in good working order. Someone might pass by, wondering what language it could speak, what it might say in an electric gasp. What a trash to annihilate each decade. What a million filaments. I was able to convert the files with every upgrade, but those printouts with the perforated edges and the scribbled comments of my old professors are now toilet paper, recycled into some more useful incarnation. DMP 240 will be crushed into Red Bull cans and milk jugs, and I will grow old, rearranging books and DVDs on sagging shelves, frantically trying to reassure myself, these are my hands, my knees. I may be skin and bone, nevertheless, I am the same identical woman. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Graceful, dramatic, vivid poetry, beautiful. Like a movie, you're there. Thank you so much for sharing. That's awesome. Next, we have Franchesa Kirkpatrick.
Hi, I'm Franchesa Kirkpatrick from Nashville, Tennessee. And your words mean so much to me, and I could hear everything that she was saying as well. I thought to read this by just a little small part of this by Florence Scovel Shinn. I forgive everyone, and everyone forgives me. The gates swing open for my good. I call on the law of forgiveness. I am free from my mistakes and the consequences of my mistakes. I am understood by grace and not under karmic law. Though my mistakes be scarlet, I shall be washed whiter than snow. That's just something I wanted to say. It's these days have been even harder to have to sit and think about the things that happened to us during our lives, and even in these days and any of the past that we have been through. Just remember, today we have today. I wrote this during a little writer's thing recently, and it's kind of a little haunting, but not quite. But it's most of it's really true, but it almost sounds not true. But we were supposed to be doing like a fictional deal. So here, this is called Kyberville. Was it a dream I had? going down the holes and seeing the places, the waterfalls, a cave. Perhaps did the natives, what did they do there? This was native land. Arrowheads in the dirt, pottery shards after a rain. I was looking in the basement, in the secret door, just behind the Buddha statue. Yes, the place where there was a large black Buddha statue had a door. The door opened. All these rooms filled with artifacts, rooms decorated for sleeping. Also finding that outside there were mobile homes. Did these things ever rot? I guess not here anyways. They were refurbished and had funky psychedelic decorations and all kinds of things built into them that didn't really belong there. How about that sinkhole out back that burned all the way down to the bottom? We all wondered what that fire really meant. Those roots that you could slide down on a kiddie slide down into the creek bottoms. Fallen trees I sat on and pretended were my house and fed my friends with the rotten wood, pretending it was tuna. The native people marching toward the Trail of Tears, footsteps mashing in the ground, into the grass, the shapes of their feet. The laughter when I fall into the grass, like I was tripped running with my friend. Who would pull us down and turn on the electric fence? It had been disconnected for ages. My little brother saying he wanted to walk into the pond and never return. That place, that farm, those fields still haunt my mind. Welcome to Kyberville. I named it after the family that owned it. Also, a side note, the woman who built the house with her husband was pregnant at the time. When she gave birth, she went into a 40-year coma when she had her daughter. True story, that part. Thank you guys for always listening and also having words of wisdom and insight into a lot of the feelings that we write about. I know some things are pressing, some things are imaginary, some things we weave into our writing, make us all think, mainly feel. Our feelings are important. So continue writing, and I'm continuing to listen. Thank you, Franchesa Kirkpatrick from Nashville, Tennessee.
Thank you. Powerful and so emotive. I love your memories of the countryside. It reminds me of my own. Just very moving, haunting, as you say. We also had a lime sink on ours, and it didn't burn, but you didn't want to go near it because you could fall in and never be seen again. So it's definitely some haunting things in the countryside even, but some beautiful as well. Wonderful words of wisdom as well. I love the first reading that you shared with us. Really beautiful. Thank you.
You, Amy.
You're welcome. Next, we have Joy Johnson.
Okay, so today I uprooted a bunch of old stuff. So this first one is called something. Let me think. What is it called? I forgot. There's No Life Without Love. It's kind of long. It's about a breakup that I had about 20 years ago. So you guys have fun with that, okay? Part 1, prologue. Love's travail is now done, and I wholer am by far for it. The story's complete before and many times, but how finer to know my own self rise in my own throat. Passion mounts and it relents. Wrath grows and goes its wild way, like any other day through all of human history, so bland the telling must turn. No matter the way I breathe the tale's truth, there is nothing new under our big green sun. Yet telling pushes pen along the line. It tries to get through. Recalling star-crossed love is a pastime for worms. To poems, nobody rushes for conclusions of what's older than I am. Act 1. First fruiting springs of this tree were trite, barren, but still I would not present itself to me as sense. He made furniture. Tree's soul soon wilted. At dawn, the sun can touch many growing things, see them come alive. I guess not know one homage from the next. Act 2. Glint of the rose red throat of hummingbird, and so the sun existed on earth. He came down here, danced dadus for his hen, placed one twig, one lichen patch in my crook. It was a subterfuge. No matter, seemed my heart was too hard to break. Ah, not Reedy. Though, as like to his perfect wives, my leaves were green-backed and flitting, off he darted. Make love to me, he said, not fuck. That was as much as I e'er got. Tree's limbs turned black. Act 3. I dreamed me a dove, 5 syllables perfect. He made me his mate, in fact begged for my love. We began to daub and adobe as one. Line a home with down, pine needles, primroses. Help me, G, he wrote. I thought that 30-year note was what it seemed. Commitment, silly me, we made not even 3. For hummingbirds, doves are too done, too squat. Supposed bliss means delusion, needs breaking. Interlude. For them, there is no dress rehearsal to learn from, except ages before today. They follow the way, stay real. The ballet of birds is that they do just what they do. Always contentious, jays caw and they fight, but they mate. If a starling's tree knot nest is a hovel, there is no cussed complaint. Affection parents show for offspring is indifferent, cantankerous, cruel, but for certain it could not be truer. And out of this nest cannot come too soon. Resentment is external to the bird heart. What they have instead is shouted loud fear and hard work to raise their trusting brood. Act 4. While we dreamed, rot worked to hollow tree out. My trunk became a place snake thought best for curling and waiting and making her nest. Me burned out by sun, snake bided her time. She struck, she took the hummingbird to ground. I withered, I cracked, bark and limbs rained down. Her eye was clear, her stare strong and straight, no scrum, not a matter of cruelty, only winter of another tribe begun where normal glistering was understudied by ash and soot and dust from axe meets tree. Scotch and pills, then hospital ceiling tiles. It was vision, clear vision with my no control, followed fast by thick mean lies, killed me cold. Act 5. Hacked at, burned, charred, my spine a rotten trunk that opened its gullet for a forceful intubation where horse and sear, a root, a foot, a shoot started from a white scar, a burl, a place for a smaller, smarter plant to grow. I miniaturized, a tenderfoot, malleable, I thistled, was no longer a great maple. 1,000 hands planted me back and I knew somehow, you do not have to get it right this life. Full of soot, my lungs rattled and I crumbled into something fierce and real. Act 6. Ideas of thistle are light as air, all round. A breeze through my seed head and I feel his song, I fruit again and again. He is the purple finch, his wife the dullest fowl. His need never ends for what I create, and copiously. His raspberry stains breast and head and rump. True, he now always bleeds for me. What pricks I give as thistle are small compared to that harm. He killed me, but it is his own wounds run when he nears with unnamed need. Yeats said, it's love man wants, but love that ever changes. I rebut, you never get out of relationship. Love is what brings us back to life, to life. Without love, there is none of us. And yes, it has it all to do with Finch's love of blue thistle seed. Maybe he could die, go back to the sky again. We all do. be distanced from here, leaving ample room for hope and a different. The truth. I want to know why it is my fondest wish, my dearest remembrance, everything that was in my mind the best, dismantled such that all recollection seems to be grayscale bitmaps and flat, reported by altogether other. A familiar blue burning moves through the vacuum between my stomach and throat, as if to squeeze heated tears right out. But I think I know it's all not important. Only rare phantom visits in the dark, rubbing the small white scar that was my heart, reminded me of a path that is closed. Just so, after all, not the end of the world.
Oh my gosh, that's so moving.
Oh, thank you.
So moving and brilliant.
It's so old.
It's brilliant. Honestly, it's so, you get in the story and every line is so well crafted. It's just, that was really amazing.
Well, thank you very much. I got
You're welcome.
I got lots of poems from back then.
Well, please keep sharing. Thank you. Wow. Now I want to, our feature is here. Would you guys think it's okay if he went ahead and featured? It would have been in the beginning. We had a miscommunication about the time, and that's on me. So that would be lovely. Let me find his bio really quickly and post that. We can read along. Okay. This is so awesome. Thank you all for being here. All right, there. David M. Harris, until 2003, had never lived more than 50 miles from New York City. Since then, he's moved to Tennessee, acquired a daughter and a classic MG, and gotten serious about poetry. His work has appeared in Piren's Fountain and First Water, the Best of Piren's Fountain anthology, Gargoyle, The Lab Letter, The Pedestal, and other places. His first collection of poetry, The Review Mirror, was published by Unsolicited Press in 2013. Please join me in welcoming David M. Harris. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for being late. Don't believe Amy for a second when she says it's her fault. It was all mine. A few years ago, I was at a workshop here in Nashville, and we had a little free time, and I wound up sitting on a little stone wall and writing a poem in the form of a letter to an old friend of mine who was a much better poet than I'll ever be, but was also probably a much better human being than I'll ever be. Thomas M. Dish. And I thought that was interesting, writing a poem in the form of a letter. And then some more ideas came to me, and this is now the collection that I am organizing. These are some selections from it. The current working title is Dreaming of the Dead. And most of the ones I'm reading today are from the Dead Letter Office section. That's poems that I wrote to people after they were my happiness been able to find an address. Dead Letter Office, Jenny Mershon. Dear Grandma, we were sitting in your kitchen in Borough Park, your only home that I ever knew or thought of, and it must have been not long after some small, rare, early success of mine. You said, I used to write too when I was young. I thought you were ancient then when you were 10 years older than I am now, 2 decades before the unfiltered camels caught up with you. I'd seen that Yiddish typewriter, Hebrew letters on the round manual keys on a shelf in the dining room, but never thought whose, why. For the theaters on 2nd Avenue, I wrote comedy sketches. the Jewish Broadway. Years later, I learned Tomaszewski, the Adlers, the great names who interpreted Shakespeare in Yiddish for immigrants. And some of them performed your work too. Those theaters gone by then, Jews go to the regular Broadway now, and Borough Park captured by Chabad, only a few of the old socialist Jews hanging on amid the kosher butchers, wig stores, streets full of black hats. The black hats never went to the theaters, those engines of acculturation, Americanization. All my life, you had been an old lady, loved and loving, infinite source of roast chicken and matzo balls. But now you had a past. You were a girl, a writer before me, pounding the Yiddish manual, speaking through actors to make crowds laugh. I imagine you, young and cute, charming producers, as you must have charmed Grandpa. When would this have been? Before Grandpa? Literate in 2 alphabets, who came alone from the Russian Pale to a world whose language was written in letters you could not yet read. I still have on a shelf in my office the typewriter you might have used, part of your escape from the old world to end in Borough Park. I don't use it, its system as distant from me as your young life, which unknown touches me now when it hides itself in the heart of my late blooming. Dead letter office, Stacy Davies. Dear Stacy, I'll never know why you did it. We were never close, surely not enough for me to discover your sorrows. Was there one shock, something in the mail that day, or some thorn embedded so deep there was no other way to remove it? Young, pretty, talented, but your life lacked something, or you thought it did. There was some flaw that could only be repaired with a rope and a light fixture. I had moments when Kate was teaching me to divorce her, when life seemed a burden, but moments only, not a plan to act on. What were you, 24? At 64, I look back at what you would have given up, at what you did give up, and wonder what could earn that cost. I'll never know. With any luck at all, I'll never know. Every now and again, I do a poem that is in a form. And if you're not familiar with the pantoum, it involves repeated lines, and you'll work out the pattern. Monica Maper. Dear Monica, fear, it was always fear, but fear of what? I was a professional at rejection. What was the worst that could happen? I could lose what I never had. I was a professional at rejection, taking it in and handing it out. I could lose what I never had and not feel the imagined loss. Taking it in and handing it out, editing my emotions as I edited books, and not feel the imagined loss? The least imagination serves no one. I edited my emotions as I edited books, kept my remote objectivity. The least imagination serves no one, but you enticed my thoughts down the hall. I kept my remote objectivity through years of intermittent friendship, but you enticed my thoughts down the hall of memory and fantasy and dreams. Through years of intermittent friendship, of tidal approaches and retreats, of memory and fantasy and dreams, I never dared to open my heart. Amid tidal approaches and retreats, fear, it was always fear. But fear of what? I never dared to open my heart. What was the worst that could happen? This next one is the first of the group that was published. Teresa Papard and her husband were Tai Chi instructors. Some of the strange phrases in here are the names of Tai Chi moves. Dear Teresa, when you and Martin sometimes couldn't make it, the Tai Chi class followed me through what we knew of the form, followed and complained I went too slow, dragging through transitions, crane spread wings to needle at the bottom of the sea. At home, I aimed for slower and slower. I tell myself someday the 40-minute long form, someday the moving meditation, unbroken by the everyday. But sometimes still, I catch myself accelerating through the second section, twisting around the corners in the MG. I expedite the straightaways, still impatient at stoplights, even on foot. My New York self chafes at Tennessee's lethargic step. But amblers drive too, where King Richard means petty. Craig Breedlove, jet propelled, haunts the nation's back roads and interstate landing strips. Faster internet, 10-second ads, television remote castanets. Breathe, long inhale, slow exhale. Repeat until the blood pressure finds normal. Remember what you taught me. Ward off left, ward off right. Grasp the bird's tail. Release the urge to plummet into the future. The tenor of the collection is really a kind of an autobiography of my late emotional development and giving up grievances and learning how to deal with large chunks of my past. And so there are a number of poems to my father. Dead Letter Office, William Harris, 1. Dear Dad, we had the most sophisticated system, stereo sound when that was rare, handmade from a kit by Heath. Bandsaw, drill press, all the tools that could have built the dream if only you had found the plans. Mowers, pruners, rakes, and spades. Strangely for our flat quarter acre, a lawn roller that I don't recall ever seeing roll. We used the tent, 8 fish you caught, and paddled the folding kayak. Not bad for the poor city kid whose immigrant elder brothers never learned to worry about being American enough. Being American enough is why I'm called Harris. The family name was originally Horowitz. And he eventually convinced one of his older brothers to also become a Harris. Dead Letter Office, William Harris, 2. Dear Dad, every writer has a secret editor sitting on the shoulder. You were always there for me, telling me what was wrong, in school, in work, even on the golf course, where I could match your scores. You corrected my grip, my stance, my swing, nothing ever perfect, ever good enough. In life or in death, you sat and observed, cool and articulate. You learned that young and well. You were saying, be better, be worthy, but I couldn't hear that. I never learned to recognize approval, not until much later, when I cleared that great weight from my shoulder. And William Harris, 3. Dear Dad, we never had a family business I could inherit, although I followed you into photography for a while, took some nice pictures, learned to print them. Then I moved on. You worked at painting all your life, and I took only one course. I found no gift. Instead, I got your curiosity and the need to make an impression on the world. I inherited or copied your gift for language, trying not to use it as a weapon, trying. And sometimes I succeed, and a poem touches someone's heart. My own bit of tikkun olam, healing the world, a phrase I never learned from you. But I know your history. Where would you have learned it? I keep searching for my inheritance, searching through my inheritance, building a new legacy for my daughter. I assume that some of you are not science fiction fans. Damon Knight was a great science fiction writer. He was a great teacher of writing. If you have any interest in writing short stories, his book, Creating Short Fiction, is the best book I've seen on the subject. And it does not specifically teach you how to write science fiction. I met him once at a science fiction convention. Other than that, our entire relationship was online through Genie, the old online bulletin board, and the Science Fiction Writers of America bulletin board. But we were friends. He wrote one of my recommendations for graduate school. Anyway, Dead Letter Office, Damon Knight. Dear Damon, across the continent, filtered by electrons, I never saw you so clear as to see your flaws. Human, there must have been some. The meticulous writer revised them out of all those online posts, oh eminence of message boards. I only picked up some of your good, or tried to. I learned from the fiction, of course, which left me and so many others envious, and the criticism, clear and fluent. But you modeled more, the careful argument, the probing, your Gedanken experimenting, and calling them that, not thought experiments, your hopeless crusades against the apostrophe, against academic abuse of the language, principle, the fine-tuned mind at work, Socrates online and at play, pushing us through the mind's workout to help us, me, to think, to be better. And sending my comments on your new edition to your editor, even if he knew better than to put them on the cover. Patron, advisor, supporter, but we never had the chance to lift a couple of cold ones. I'll lift one for you now with someone young and try to carry on as you taught me. And here's the last of the father poems. William Harris, 6. For several weeks, my daily workout was cycling up 10th Avenue to Amsterdam to the hospital to visit you. Sometimes I'd stop off for a quiet moment in the cathedral across the street before what I refused to believe was the death watch. I remember talking and watching sports. Borg versus McEnroe at Wimbledon, good enough to capture two men who didn't care about tennis, and waiting for the only possible resolution. I spent a night in the waiting room without drama and a few hours on the sidewalk days later, waiting for Shelley to drive up from Maryland. Then we were busy through the Shiva, cleaning out the safe deposit box, the house, the long unopened drawers of memories, secrets and surprises, old pictures, ID cards, a Nazi Luger, war booty, the file cabinets, the few letters you had saved. The letter from your sister around the time of my bar mitzvah, reassuring you that I really was your son. Under Jewish law, not that that was important to you, the man who raises the child is the father. I don't have the Harris nose, but I got the curiosity, the Sunday Times crossword, the love of history, the love of the Yankees. Forget about genetics. Everything important came from you. Thank you.
More. Amazing.
You really want more? I've got two recent ones that hardly anybody has heard.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
when you're an atheist and a poet, I think you have a certain moral obligation to write poems about the Bible. So every now and again, I pop out one of those. And this is two from different parts of the Bible. Joseph. She told me through tears, not mine. I didn't ask whose. What difference could it make? Her uncle had sworn she was pure, but it is easy to keep secrets from indulgent family. I like children, enough to raise another man's son. I know how old I am, how young she is, how beautiful. I am no tzaddik, no rabbi, no idiot. So when she swears she is a virgin, I pretend to believe. What harm can come of this little pretense? A tzaddik is a righteous man. It's actually Yiddish, which a language that wouldn't have existed in the time of that Joseph, but nonetheless. And this is from the Old Testament. The calf. They came to me, heads of tribes, asking, where do we turn for help? Show us this God who took us out of Egypt, that we may pray. I explained, patient, what my brother had told me, that God is everywhere in a flame or a whirlwind or anything he wants. They turned away, muttering about invisible gods, and where could you worship them? What kind of God had no image, no temple, no priest? But I am the priest, chosen by my brother in the name of the nameless, shapeless God. The leaders came again. See the lightning on the mountaintop? Your brother is dead, struck down by his new God. Lead us now. Give us a God, give us a God we can recognize. What could I do? Bring me the gold, I said, the Egyptian gold, a pile of treasure the size of an ox. And Moses still had not returned. So I made them a heifer without stain, of purest gold, anything to keep them at the base of that mountain. Wandering that desert without a leader, without skills, without a God, was death. I had to save them. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. Oh my gosh, please unmute and show David what a wonderful job he did. That was amazing. Great poetry. The letters to the loved ones, just brilliant. So brilliant.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. It's an honor to host you. We're going to return to our open mic. And I don't believe she's here, but Epiphany Divine, are you here? I believe so. Christine Dickinson.
Hiya. Oh, that was fantastic. Having such a good time. This one's called Sharps. Grandad stippled soap with a brush to work lather in a mug. Looped the leather belt he threatened to paddle his son's hide, latched to skirt the window catch in the scullery, yanked a tight rope to strop the cutthroat blade. Dad honed the carving knife with steel each Sunday in the ways of his father, crossing arms in a swish of rapier swipes, shocked us with blunt words when a razor snagged his chin after his wife's furtive shave. Mother kept her secateurs well oiled, popped in a penny pocket, handy to nip to the washing line. She would interrupt house chores to snip recalcitrant runners, a rush of tendrils, the rampant climbers. Her eyes guide my elbow trimming flowers, not roses or rare bouquets, but bargains, scooped from buckets on a cut through the market, bunches licked into shape quick as a flick of her tongue, blessed with sighs and that toothy smile. She hid a Stanley knife in the kitchen, knelt at our feet to let down hems, mouth pinched with pins, taught us to point sharps inwards, spare others at all costs. Lost needles were a sin. Those tools, worn smooth in her hands, mould to mine, dressmaking scissors, the pointy embossed gold cranes to sever threads, in a St. Bruno tobacco tin, swaddled in felt, earned through toil in a shop lit with silks, wool balls, kaleidoscopes of cottons, tough as teeth. And we wrapped our penknives inside handkerchiefs, used that spike to prise stones from horses' hooves, to gouge initials in wood. We learned to ignore hurt, suck the cuts, not complain. Damage meant we'd only ourselves to blame. I've got another one if that's okay, Amy. Yeah. Shaping up. Strange how some days fall into shape. The slide of jersey silk, the rest of supple leather, the warmth of a second skin. In Rome, I rested elbows on a counter, unfurling my hand for an Italian. She loved her work, fitting the gift of yellow gloves, palms stroking down, smooth to the wrist, close as a promise, snug as a ring. Such instants slip the V of each fingerfold, constant leaks, becalmed in memory. And images of last time's ripple our dreams, a smile, certain songs, a hats worn for fun. We miss our people when they leave the room, as if readying ourselves for normality to end. And I want the words to stay the time, the skill to be present, hold the hour. How can a moment measure up enough to take the inadequate day for granted, give pause as easily as a remote control? And throughout the routine days, I ask if some habit will remain a task when the next change comes. But we are lost, speculating the waste in the past. Our friends are calling and willing us to move on. Thank you.
Such amazing detail and moving stories and spiritual aspect. I really enjoyed all of that. And you had some lovely comments in the chat as well. Wow. Thank you. Wow. Next, we have Daniel Villegas.
Hello, buenas.
Buenas.
Hi. I've been enjoying the poetry, so thank you everyone for sharing. I'm just gonna do two pieces. One is a decent size length, and then one kind of short. I do kind of like, I do the slam poetry kind of back and forth between that and hip hop, so you'll probably feel the influence. But it goes something like this. This is dedicated to all the poets. It's called Iron Poet. I'm the next Iron Poet. You can see me on mics, because I'm gonna do more things than just bringing the light. I'm here to ignite like walking on lava, elevating high like a spiritual conscious. My content can be considered the hardest. No, just plain, no, I'm not. Yeah, I hit like I'm August. The multi-syllabic metaphorical garnet. My rhymes come fully dressed like a fashion statement. And still I got enough words to rip out pages, melancholy, but only because I feel the faintest. Ideas sprout out like a vegetarian blatant, so real and so raw like an invisible spaceship. And still I consider to be part of this matrix, where all is thought, but also backed up by some movements. Actions unless you fully compute it. And despite all the heckles, I would push through the norm, like a bodybuilder lifting up his back from the wall. I'm like Atlas holding the world on my shoulders in case I ever do fall. I walk on the sky and use the clouds as my phone. And in the middle of chaos, I'll create energy, lightning straight from the raindrop as it keeps the letter G like God and Trisnic in nature, cold like glaciers, but then I heat up like volcanic craters. Busta rhymes like Busta rhymes whenever I intertwine Spanish with Catalan. Glorious bastards make homie the Dalai Lama, singing like, ooh la la la. That's the way that we rock when we're doing our thing. Ooh la la la. And still I bring truths like Egyptian Sphinx, now holding the roots, because all that was water. Canoes and trade ports from the coming of time, and still I glow light like the sun in my rhymes and speaking sublime with lyrical heights. A canopy is my reality when I casually clear out the casualty, a commodity for the economically. My anthology is to be possibly like pottery, molded into greatness, when my apologies are nothing but hypotheses. Okay, let me reorder my rap. I do raps like MCs flowing on the Nile River raps. Either way, it's cool. Raps like Bohemian Rhapsody. My raps can breathe because they take form of their own. So let me keep this rap for the people at home. When my raps can be rapidly scattered to evaporate calories, when my rhymes are like batteries, yo, I flow like the lottery, 1 in a million. Words when I calibrate Kaliss, or I meant to say Coliseans. My words strike truth like a storm with a pile of felines. Yo, I rewind back to the beginning of this poem, because if you miss the purpose, then you're lost in the source. Or should I say lost in the sauce? Either way, I will end it like this. A man in the pond, I command of a tongue. When I silhouette songs, you see our shadows can hold light, but that depends on the storm. So I should say it depends on the poem. Either way, I rock mics like I'm back in the barn. I am poet. Okay, so that was that piece. I'm currently working on a spoken word mixture music album, a bilingual album, Spanish and English. And this is one of the poems I want to open up the album with. So like I said, thank you for having me, and I'm glad for this space and this community to be able to share. This poem is called The Power of Words. It's a spoken word poem, and it goes like this. Let me break it down with words and ideas. Complex rhymes that may appear Andean. Formulations of my thoughts and ambience. Transform light so the mind can add here. It's critical, my syllables pivot like mythical. Concepts like context whenever I'm literal. Speak words of justice so real that decibels. Pedaling sound waves, a skywalker to concave. I rhyme so hot, it turns to a sun day. Solar eclipse, I transform when I'm mundane. My Mondays be passively graphic. My yoga pose translates to a fan base of spiritual heighten. My mandate is to get everyone as high as the clouds end. Whenever in Zen, my meditation can lend mathematics the science of human involvement. So if you really want to know the power behind words, I suggest you tune in to my lyrical converse. We're all stars. I'm talking like Coast Guards with postcards, infinite gold dust that sends you to show off your ability. I can transmute and transcend human stupidity with a cup of flowers, the flower of the integrity and the reason we flow. Ancient like the Nile, whenever I glow, venerable with repetitive lettering written in codes, light structures to set up for the human can know that the power really lies in the human emotions. Thank you. I'll put my info in the chat if you want to follow me on Instagram. But once again, thank you very much for this space and glad to be part of it.
Oh gosh, thank you, Daniel. That was amazing. Just flow so well, and all the rhymes and the brilliant details that you switched in the middle of all the lines. And thank you for coming. Please do come again. Now we have Marylyn Coffey.
Hey.
Hey there.
I'm kind of the opposite of what we just heard. This is very personal. I wrote it a long time ago. It's kind of about sex, so it's not anything graphic. There's just a few sort of specific images, but they're not really graphic. So that's just a warning in case, but there's no violence or anything. And I wish I could be more wide reaching, but it's just very personal. Like and I added a verse yesterday at the end. It's called Lilliput. The tiny ranch house bedroom in which I first felt that unpleasant invasion, that momentary bodily dispossession, in this case performed by a dark-haired college junior named Fred on my 16-year-old experimental and probably already resigned female self, that self having had a toke or two and a sip of burgundy, and not caring outwardly, and not feeling any nameable emotional thing, but understanding that this guy was, at least, not considered a loser, and understanding that it wasn't a defeat really, just a step forward, with a certain group of possible friends and a certain bumpy learning curve. That ranch house bedroom was inadequate and always has been. In my memory, I see only the single bed with its dotted chenille spread that remained in place. I hear the squeak of the condom. I feel the pain of penetration into what was not my soul, but merely a humid, skeptical, reluctant place that I myself would never enter. It was everything a first time shouldn't be. I'd only just met him, and when he called me a few days later, I said, no. He was attractive, he was smart, he was even exotic. But he was just an instrument in my depersonalization project. I had wanted to impress the wild and confident Sally, the older young woman, the artist's model, who had invited me to the party. I had wanted in to her gang. But although we exchanged a few words, I never heard from her again. Later, rolling around naked in a Boston apartment with someone I'd just met, someone small and smooth and friendly and just a regular straight, you know. The contact skin to skin was much more nourishing than the fucking, and this was the kind of fellow who actually enjoyed that contact and the laughter more than the other thing. That's why I liked him. But I left right after that, of course, because it was generic. The more I enjoyed something, the shorter the period of time I gave it. I regulated my own experiences. I didn't allow myself too much of a good thing. I remember a boy who later came out as gay, thrusting and thrusting as if his life depended on it. He was big, and I was exhausted and bored. But I'd stolen him from another girl, so I had to make it good. But I couldn't. So many things couldn't be good, no matter how much intellectual fervor I applied. I didn't really know what it was to feel. Didn't know until I was almost 30, and then I was frightened of it. It's one thing to be addicted to a commodity, another thing to be addicted to a person, because most people can't be purchased outright, unfortunately for the one who has the craving. For some reason, this guy I was addicted to, his face appeared in the sky every time I looked up, and it didn't go away for a year. And then I went into my mother phase, getting attached to young, handsome, hapless twits, taking care of them. And then you could say it was all over because I moved to Alabama. But it had only just begun. Another tiny ranch house bedroom was my headquarters. I ran my doomed project, my search for happiness, that is, from a now demolished property in a now demolished neighborhood. But really, not much happened. I had a dream of cosmic significance, but woke up to a silly job. Parts penetrate you while you are not paying attention, lying on your ranch house bed. And you are tied like Gulliver by small beings and thoughts and memories, each of which you could defeat one-on-one, but whose overwhelming numbers and attitudes simply conquer the place. Entities as small and ethereal as puffs of chenille laid out in a grid upon which you become a graph. And here's the verse I added yesterday. Wait, that slip into the second person, the you. Why was that? Because I was slipping away from an old self, detaching? I despise that old self. She was an idiot. She wrote that poem. But now I add this last hurrah. I'm okay now. Glad it's over, that sex thing. Except for remnants of wanting to please. I know very well how to blend into my environment at home and abroad. I mean, in the former workplaces. I was and am never, ever, ever alone, and that was always the one thing I really desired. I live in a strange, tiny ranch house even now. But at least the bedspread is plain cotton, and the man with whom I share that bed understands.
I love Lilliput. That is an amazing poem, and so many personal feelings that you shared beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. It's kind of a little scary to say those things, actually.
I can imagine.
I mean, I always wrote them all my life. I always wrote all that stuff, but I never shared. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank everyone else too.
Well, thank you. It's a safe place. Next, we have Jeff Cottrill. Welcome.
Okay, so I'll do kind of an oldie that I wrote last year. It's not that old. It's called Do You Know Who I Am? And this may or may not be based on a real Facebook interaction. Excuse me, Jeff. Did I just hear you correctly? Do I understand that you dared to offer an opinion on the cinema of Stanley Kubrick? That you dared to offer such an opinion to me? Do you know who I am, Jeff? Do you know who I am? Let me enlighten you then. I'll have you know that I am the acclaimed author of more than 15 best-selling science fiction novels and the recipient of 2 Academy Award nominations for my commissioned screenplays. I have also taught several courses at the American Film Institute and at the Columbia University School of the Arts. Respected people seek out my opinions on cinema and literature, Jeff. They don't have the gall to give me theirs. So I think my discourse on the Kubrick oeuvre has far more credibility than yours ever will. Who are you, Jeff? You write your silly, petty little poems and monologues and perform them like a trained chimpanzee at small pub readings, or in this case, Zoom. You make your meager living writing advertising profiles of, dear God, industrial equipment. What a small, shallow world you live in. What could you possibly have to contribute to a discussion of high cinema? Do you know who I am, Jeff? And here's what your tiny mind will never understand. I am not merely a high-profile expert in Stanley Kubrick's art. You see, I worked with Stanley Kubrick. I knew Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick was a friend of mine, and Jeff, you're no Stanley Kubrick. Oh, you didn't know? Stanley used to invite me to his home in England all the time. We'd go out and play golf and discuss literary and film theory and talk about chess and Seinfeld too. Christiane would bake cookies and cakes for us, and we'd sit on the porch and laugh and laugh. We'd laugh about fools like you, Jeff. Fools like you who dare to test your toes in the great ocean of high art. But you don't have the stamina to stay afloat in that ocean, and the sharks and piranhas of truth will eat you alive. You just don't understand Stanley the way I do, Jeff. Christiane still sends me birthday cards. I could show them to you, just say the word. Or are you too cowardly to witness real success? Do you know who I am, Jeff? I'm not merely a valued confidant of Stanley Kubrick. Oh, no. I also knew Philip K. Dick. Oh, you didn't ask, but I'm telling you anyway. And I wasn't just his friend, Jeff. I was Philip K. Dick's mentor. He would have been nothing without my influence, I tell you. And let me make it clear, the man respected me. He never thought of polluting the air around me with his superficial musings about Carl Jung or H.G. Wells or L. Ron Hubbard or even D.C. Fontana. He knew it wasn't his place. If I needed my boots licked without a second's hesitation, would he get down on his knees and lick them until royalty could dine off them? If I wanted a cup of coffee, he would not rest until the finest plantations of southeastern Brazil had delivered the finest coffee grounds to my very doorstep. You could learn a lot from the humility of Philip K. Dick, Jeff, but I suppose you never will. Do you know who I am? In the greater picture, it doesn't matter if you do, because I know who you are. You are a child, Jeff. An ignorant, wayward child lost in a forest of sophisticated adults. And you just don't have the instincts to survive in the wild, do you? You are a dumb yokel without the tools or the knowledge to thrive in a world of mature cultural appreciation. And all of this would be perfectly tolerable if you knew your place, Jeff, but you don't. Your place is not to give uninformed and misguided opinions on cinematic works that are beyond your understanding. You don't have the license to share these empty musings with experts like yours truly. When you do, it's nothing better than mansplaining. Yes, that's what the kids are calling it today, isn't it? You're mansplaining. Even when you do it to another man, it's still mansplaining. Of course, when I talk down to you, it's a completely different thing. Because I've earned my place above you, Jeff. I've earned my stature through a hard work ethic and openness to learning of which you cannot conceive. Farewell, my young troll friend. I'm running late. I'm off to dine with Connie Willis, Neil Gaiman, and Rian Johnson. You run off now and enjoy your little Snapchat and TikTok videos like a good boy. Run along. Don't bother me. That was called Do You Know Who I Am? If I have time for another shortish kind of one. This is, I may have done this one here before, I don't remember. It's a found poem full of lines from classic movies in which they say the names of the movies. And it's called 22 Lines from Classic Movies in which they say the names of the movies. 1. That's strange. Nobody's supposed to sleep well in Casablanca. 2. Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future. 3. Well, I guess some like it hot. I personally prefer classical music. 4. In moonlight, black boys look blue. 5. That's a great white shark, a 20-footer, 3 tons of them, and full of jaws. 6. Luke, I've had it. I'm taking my reward and leaving. You're not getting me mixed up in one of these Star Wars. 7. You know, they say there are 3 kinds of people in this crazy mixed up world. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Which one are you, punk? Which one are you? 8. I'm gonna lay 400 blows on this kid if he don't settle down. 9. Vincent, we got a hit to do, motherfucker. Stop sitting on that toilet and reading that Pulp Fiction. He crawled through a river. There's a recording in progress too, hey. You don't get it, Willard. I ain't talking about no apocalypse yesterday, and I ain't talking about no apocalypse next week. I'm talking about an apocalypse now. 13. I shall take over all the oil fields in California, and if I should happen to cut my finger in the process, there will be blood. 14. I'll catch this wanted man for a fistful of dollars. 15. I'll catch this wanted man for a fistful of dollars, but I'll kill him for a few dollars more. 16. I swear, these motel rates are so high, they're completely psycho. 17. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman, the movie. 18. Ho mangiato tra gli ippopotami transessuale con la dolce vita, ma la stupida fattoria di salsicce ha schiaffeggiato la mia bella scialda. 19. Would you like some fries with that, Citizen Kane? 20. Get busy living or get busy dying. And that, my friends, is what they call the life of Brian. 21. Sir, I just saw Jefferson Smith heading to the train station. Where does Mr. Smith go? I didn't catch that, sorry. I asked, where did Mr. Smith go? Still can't hear you, kid. Where does Mr. Smith go? Gotta speak louder, kid. I said, where does Mr. Smith go? Why, Mr. Smith goes to Los Angeles to meet the Big Lebowski. And finally, number 22, forget it, Jake. It's with Nail and I. 22 classic movie lines. And I have a bunch of events coming up in October. I'm going to put links to 2 of them in the chat because they're coming up next weekend. First Friday open mic on Friday, Like a Blot from the Blue on the following Sunday. Cheers.
Wonderful and hilarious as always. Thank you so much. That was really fun and brilliant. Thank you. I don't believe Born to Write is here. Lantern Carrier.
Yay, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Wow, I have to be totally different from Jeff now. I'm still recovering. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. A moment's peace edifies the spirit, sharpens the intuition, and calms the heart. Like an ascending dove, it sails on the wings of heavenly light, flying above the storms of life. A moment's peace is blessed above all else and fills my core with perennial sweetness. Taking away my veil of sorrows, it embraces me with the excellence of luminous dawn. A moment's peace gladdens the emotions and eradicates anxiety. It fills my soul with heavenly joy, alleviates the magnitude of my earthly struggles. A moment's peace brings forth a carousel of new tomorrows. It frees me from a flood of worldly thoughts and destroys the rust of my unhappiness. A moment's peace has the vivacity of a lion, yet is meek as a lamb. It grants me the grace of inward vision, delights in the sovereign good within all visible and invisible things. A moment's peace is contented with little, feels more exalted to give than to receive. It shares in the richness of my happiness and is most precious when preserved in silence. A moment's peace sows in the fusion of ardent love and knows the fullness of heaven. It descends like the morning's dew, adds sparkle to the grandeur of the soul. A moment's peace evokes from deep within deeds inspired by love. It arouses the heart and lightens the understanding and dispels like smoke the gray seeds of grief. A moment's peace hides in the innocence of the newborn, cradled in its mother's arms. A moment's peace can and shall make this world beautiful, a gift of love supreme. A moment's peace. Poem 2. Content warning. Some words with trigger warnings may not necessarily trigger, while some eloquent bars without may sometimes create a chasm of anxiety. I'm the light of voice from within, a kindergarten child elucidating an enchanting melody according to my growth, development of perceptions on this seafaring journey of life. I am a chaotic mesh of secrets, hidden in the dark alleyway of my nervous synapses, contained in the emotional corridors of my Pandora's box. A fragile, anxious, and susceptible soul, I'm vulnerable to lipped ink that scroll triggers so painfully that even while floating gracefully like a swan, may yet stab my heart with scimitars, rob my soul of its container of ancient secrets. Content warning. This poem may pierce your defenses like knives, expose your imperfections to the wind, like tornadoes do to seemingly strong houses, well-rooted coconut palm trees, unyielding to the fragility in its wake. Words. A woman once told me that my bars flowed with such eloquence and beauty, it was as if light and warmth had seeped into this world, filling her core with the magic of love. Yet bars can tear at the dignity and self-respect of another, darting in and out like a foreign predator, striking at emotions so close, we can almost smell them, like a stream of odorous sweat on bodies. Light zephyrs blow as the dawn awakes, filling the sky with wonder. Sparrows chirp as the starlings serenade my heart in the light of spring. I cup my hands in holiness as magnolias sing and camellias waltz to the sweet arias. Cadence is immaculate and touching. So too we both spit and listen to bars for numerous reasons. The next time you pen words from within, try to lift me like clouds do to the indigo heavens, parting the white silvery robes, making way for the lapis lazuli of the indigo sky, blessing us with its translucent luster. Let my soul clap on the heart chair like an unaccomplished lover, the pulse beat like fingers clicking, minstrels stamping their feet with harp-like symphonies, resonate, engaging charisma to crowds in standing ovation. If you cannot do this, then at least give me a content warning so I can decide whether or not to allow what may very well be my veil of sorrows. London Carrier, thank you.
Wow. Does anyone want to unmute and also go, wow? That is amazing. Lantern Carrier is so spiritual, a journey, a beautiful journey every time.
Thank you
so much. Thank you so much.
It's muy
Your words are
amable.
really good for me. They're really good for me, Lantern Carrier. They're really, really good.
You're so kind. You're so kind. You're so kind. We all in the same boat together. Yeah, we all lute in the master flute is called love. Yeah.
Agreed. We are one. We're blessed.
Indeed.
Blessed to have you here too.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. That helped me too, Marylyn. Next, I don't believe she's here, Maggie Sanders. No. So next we have Julian Matthews.
Hi.
Hi there.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome.
Julian.
A bit of prose. Snake stories. My mother had a relationship with a snake. I don't say this lightly or in jest. She really believed in it. Once when I came home to inform her I was getting married, she said the Pambu, in Tamil, snake, already paid her a visit and told her the news. Similarly, when we were expecting our first child, she already knew. The snake had delivered the message. I never questioned it. When I was 13, we lived in a row of terrace houses that had an abandoned area behind that was covered in undergrowth, which attracted all sorts of creepy crawlies to the extended kitchen at the back. One day we discovered a black cobra had made its home in a hole next to the drain pipe. I remember the drama of coaxing it out with hot water, which each of us armed with something: a bat, a broomstick, a hoe, a machete, ready to strike and screaming as it slid out and raised its hooded head, and somehow all of us missed the target until my mother stepped in and sliced it clean through. She was decisive that way, never showed fear, made me suck it up when I came crying from a fall or a cut, and sending me off amid the snot and tears to go get the plaster myself from the medicine cabinet. She did hug and show deep affection like most mothers, but only when I was little. Once I remember when I was beaten so badly with a broom by Dad for embarrassing him, she came to my aid after. The beatings were rare, but they did happen though. No one considered them trauma or child abuse at that time. I sensed immediately my mother regretted killing the cobra. She was Hindu by birth and converted to Catholicism when she married Dad. The killing of a snake, even watching it being killed, is a bad omen. She must have made amends later, as is the custom, to future snakes that showed up. Sometime later, there was a story which made world news of a rubber tapper in Malaysia being squeezed to death by a huge python. Another man had stumbled upon the scene when the snake was in mid-swallow. It literally had bitten off more than it could chew, and it was later killed. My dad read the story out loud to us with a mixture of awe and sly humor. Of course, later there was a consult with a pink book with a fierce Chinese god in it that had tiny drawings which corresponded with 4-digit numbers. You looked up a drawing, usually if it came to you in a dream, and tried your luck at the 4-digit lottery shops. I don't think the snake number brought Dad any luck, no matter how many combinations of it he tried. Just like the unlucky, hapless tapper who couldn't be revived. My mother has passed on for over 4 years now. The other day, my wife had a vivid dream of her which she remembered. She said my mom was hugging me tightly, something we rarely did when I was an adult. I wondered then whether there were snakes in heaven, and whether one came to her again, sending us a message through a dream. Maybe it was good news. Maybe it was bad. You know, mothers and all dogs, as a matter of principle, are sent to heaven when they pass. But what about snakes? Is there a place even for them there too? Years ago, when I told the story of Adam and Eve to my children, I thought after the fall that the snake logically had to follow them out of Eden. Who would the snake torment or tempt in paradise left by itself? No snake is an island. And I wondered about all the snakes in my life, the reptilian and the two-legged kind, whether it was worth forgiving and reaching out or just moving on without the drama, without the need to assuage and make amends. Maybe it's the uncoiling of these times that has left some of us spiraling into apathy. Less serpent, more servient. Some days I have enough snake in me to swallow me whole. Most days I just want to curl up and be left alone. And then it occurred to me, maybe there was never a snake in my mother's back kitchen after all. She just used the story to remind me that there's a bit of snake in all of us. Sometimes the snake makes us hiss, bite, tempt, or torment others. Sometimes it can constrict or wind us up. Maybe to move forward, all we need to do is make the choice to shed old skins and be remade anew. Maybe the snake is just here to be the bearer of the message, the lesson from all this death and dying. And like my mother, we need to make peace with it and let it go. Maybe you just need to listen to the sound of our own rattle and find our way back to Eden and never ever again kill the messenger. Thank you.
Wow.
I agree. Wow. Oh my goodness. So hypnotic. And as, let's see, as Marylyn said, the forever yielding metaphor of the snake. That is the way you wrap and coil as well. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. And you're coming to us from Malaysia. Wonderful. Thank you for being with us. Would anyone else like to read? Just raise your hand. All right, that'll be me then. Okay, we have one poem that is short called The Question of the Egg, which just got published last month. And then actually this month still, because it's still September. And then we have the short story about Jamaica. And it's totally up to you guys in terms of time. It's 2:44 where I am. So it's up to you guys, a short poem or a long thing.
Go for a long, Amy.
Long is good, we'll do it. Okay, Jamaica. Let me get down there, let's see. There we go. Okay, it's called Among the Closer Stars, a Wedding Story. And it looks like I need to expand my frame here to see it all. Yes, there we go. Okay. You and I are traveling in a small bus with your friend, the driver, on the way from the airport to Negril, Jamaica. Stretches of wild jungle and brightly painted wooden shacks, nodding residents with various products on their heads. Lovely food smells coming in through the windows of the bus. Poinciana trees blooming red above us. This is the 1990s, and as a painter, I soak up stretches of clear fields, enigmatic trees, bursts of jungle torn away for new developments. School children in uniforms of all ages on foot in buses, especially in the small town centers we pass through. Truly dangerous near misses, though we trust our driver. Lots of residents on mopeds. Each vehicle sends out a honk before rounding a corner and possibly a prayer. We stop for red striped beers at a bar in a brightly painted wooden shack. Still daylight, enjoying the crisp taste. We get back on the road again when we're finished, refreshed. After a long ride, we stop at a tiny wooden shack, also brightly painted, right in the middle of a field. Maybe 10 people are there, all with long dreads. Proud and sweet they are, beautiful, peaceful, raising our red stripes. Clink, cheers. We stay a while longer as darkness falls. We are so much closer to the stars here. A fire is built in an empty oil drum and we gather around. Since I'm a political person, when social questions and circumstances are brought up, I put my 2 cents in. Do I believe in revolution? No. Evolution, I say. Revolution is risky, unpredictable. Evolution is hard enough. Should we burn it down? No, but sometimes you do have to start over, I said, like the American Revolution. After a lull comes over us, we head into the dark, starlit night, the rest of the way into Negril, a coastal city not yet overtaken by resorts, the gated communities of Jamaica, and much worse, cocaine and crack in years to come. We stay with Sister D and her husband Richard, friends of yours from previous visits, via a bumpy dirt road way up a remote hill. There is a separate bungalow for us behind their home, white with green shutters outside, decorated inside with mango colors. We crashed that night, fatigued from the trip. The next morning, while we're having our coffee on the porch, we see orange and yellow, tiny, unknown tropical songbirds in the trees nearby. Flaming red hibiscus, wildly covered foliage in Sister D's paradise garden. Dear friends are here with us in 2 more bungalows further down in the garden. You and I are getting married in a few days. We hang out on the porch for a while before breakfast, amazed to be here. We all feel suddenly very at home. We want to live here, we say excitedly, but you shake your head at every entrepreneurial idea, no matter how fun or creative. Eventually, we believe you that it's impossible, trusting your greater experience with Jamaica. We walk down the hill to the Hibiscus Cafe to have fried ackee fruit for breakfast, which is just like scrambled eggs, and amazing coffee with evaporated milk. Walking up and down the hill, we meet friendly people who live here, many beautiful and sweet people, goats with unusual irises, golden eyes, soft fur, bells around their necks, bleeding. They eat a lot of goat here, I know, but I'm determined the goats are all my friends and not to eat them. On the beach, everyone seems so friendly and wants to talk to us. You instruct me to let you do all the talking. Anytime you have to leave me alone in the moped, many people come up to talk, but I just smile and shake my head. We visit Miss Brown at her place on the beach. In her open air shack, she fries up chicken for us while we enjoy the beach, palms, waves, salt air breeze. You and I are exploring the conch shells left on the beach, singing Sweet and Dundee by Toots and the Maytals. Someone offers to braid my hair, but I say no for now. I'm painting in watercolor while we wait, overwhelmed by the scenery. A young artist comes up to me and sketches a perfect twisting beech tree in my sketchbook, and I watercolor on it for a bit. I'm very grateful and honored, but he shrugs, unimpressed with his talent. When you and I came here for a trip to Jamaica, my first time, you would take me to one of the local restaurants in the grill, down the hill, to the right along the coastline, past a lovely curve in the shoreline. The restaurant is the Red Snapper. We take the ladder sometimes down to a very small area next to the water. There are huge boulders all around. Wee sea creatures lining the sea floor make the water particularly turquoise. I paint in watercolors there, and we eat more and more jerk chicken all day, drink more red stripe beer, snorkel around the rocks and almost get lost, only to find the way back for more of the same. A young man comes by on his boat, offering a string of tiny, brightly colored fish, but we don't bite. My back at this point is fairly jarred, stiff and seized up from all the bumps in the road with the moped. We decide to go snorkeling, even though my back is a mess. We get to a boat dock and are helped into the boat with a wedding party guest. It's a short, lovely ride to where we'll be snorkeling. We get to our location, and I'm trying to figure out how to turn, how to lift myself up above the boat railing into the water with any semblance of grace. Our friends are now getting into the water with their snorkeling gear, and I'm just shaking my head. Maybe it's not my day, I say. Just then the boat captain gently lifts me up and over like a baby into the warm, salty sea. I gulp a bit of seawater when I splash into the ocean and learn not to do that again. Thank you so much, I say, and the boat captain nods and smiles. Looking for you along the waves. I'm waiting for each head to bop up. Seeing you, I swim toward you. You are delighted to see me and you say, check this out. Excitedly, carefully, not going deeper than the snorkel can bear, we see through the goggles. A chocolate brown rock with long green water plants swaying on its surface. Two sparkling cobalt blue tropical fish swim to the surface of the rock lake. Look at us. Look at you two. I was so surprised, I gasped and choked on water, coming up to the surface, careful not to jab at the ocean floor with my flippers. I go back below the surface and the surreal blue fish are still there. I try to figure out what makes them sparkle and see that they have dots of sparkle here and there on top of the cobalt blue scales. Miraculous fish. My back is also feeling like a miracle happened, swimming in the warm salt water. You and I go into the country for a night to stay with Miss Brown and her family, her sweet brown Jamaican dogs lazing in the late afternoon sun. Talking into the evening, we eventually settle in for the night in an extra house behind Miss Brown's home. The house is full of gaps due to its wooden construction, no getting around it, because so many kinds of jungle bugs destroy all hope of a good night's sleep. We wake up the next morning for breakfast with Miss Brown's family, then a walk into the lush countryside by a stream. There are tall grasses all around, the landscape dotted with ancient grand trees. I take a panorama of photographs around us with my camera while you and Miss Brown's daughter wash up in the stream. The next day, we arrive at the hotel where we will marry. All morning, a tropical storm blows about and makes us worry, me especially. The groom and his best man are out on an adventure, and my maids of honor and I are getting ready slowly with a bit of champagne. Makeup, shower, hairdos, still no flowers. My gown is wrinkled from the trip down, and a lovely woman from the hotel takes it away for a little pressing. We hear from the men that they've made it to the hotel to get ready. The beautiful roses arrive for all of us from the florist. The storm clears, and the arbor is being decorated with bright red tropical flowers. The lovely, gracious woman appears with my wedding dress, perfectly pressed. The time comes for the wedding. We are beside ourselves with excitement. Each of us travels from a secret passageway to meet you and your best man. We are so happy to see each other and are married by a priest in love under an arch of red bougainvillea with roses, dear friends, champagne, rum cake, and signatures. We head back to Sister D's to change into comfortable clothes, then back out for dinner at the Red Snapper to have a wonderful meal. That night, our friends say goodbye, getting on the bus again for the airport. You and I fall into passion, then deep sleep. We are up and down, visiting the closer stars on the roof. I paint in watercolor, swirls and lines in blue and brown, rust, green. We get on the moped the next night. There are a lot of holes in the street to avoid. All of them are hard to avoid in the dark as it jolts my spine in a hard way each time. We head away from the grill on the coastline for what seems like a long time. It's wild and romantic to hold onto your chest from behind for dear life. The moon and stars follow us, lighting our way into the darkness as there are no street lights. We stop at a small and painted beer shack. Immediately, we're attacked by enormous mosquitoes, the biggest I've ever seen. I can feel them landing on me like small birds, and eventually stop swatting them off. You and I find a place to sit and have more red stripes, talking and smiling, nodding and moving to the reggae, along with everyone there who has long dreadlocks, sweet faces, smiles, and gestures. The next day, headed out on the moped on another adventure to see a nearby historic town. Almost immediately, you're bit by some bug on your hand. You want to turn back, but it can't be that bad, right? But we should have turned back. Very soon after that, we blow a tire on the moped. We get it to the side of the road where there's a neighborhood. Soon, about 10 young men are there trying to help change the tire. They go to find an inner tube once, twice, 3 times. All the inner tubes have holes in them. While we wait for hours for this to work out, they also bring us red stripe. Eventually, we are ready to go again, this time back to Sister Dee's house in the grill, which seems so far away. Rob gives the young men some cash, but they want more. He hands me some more cash and instructs me as we ride away to make it rain with the cash, to the sounds of yelling and laughter coming from the young men behind us. Soon enough, the tire blows out again, but this time on the highway. We hitchhike as best we can with the injured moped. A car with 4 young men stops. They put the bike in the trunk and we get in and are on our way in the now cramped car. I'm admiring everything in the countryside with sparse development of homes along the way, then the remains of a white mansion ahead of us on the hill. I ask what it is several times, but no one answers. It's very spooky, that silence in that ruined mansion on the hill. No one says a word for the rest of the journey. Finally, they deliver us up the hill to Sister Dee's and we're home again. We have the rest of the week for blissful trips to get chicken patties and jerk chicken and enjoy peace and quiet at Sister Dee's. Going up on the roof at night, kissing and making out up there, listening to new reggae songs from all the homes along the hill. I let a young woman braid a bit of my long hair with a turquoise bead at the end. Since our wedding day, the flower petals of pale pink roses and tiny white orchids for my wedding bouquet are drying all along the back porch. Later at the Miami airport, we are not allowed to bring them in. Understandable, but a loss of delicate beings that were with us on our beautiful wedding day. Hard to see them go right into the trash after all that care to bring them here. So many memories in Jamaica in the 1990s before many resorts like gated communities come in to line the beautiful beaches. Cocaine and crack make it too dangerous for us to visit now, even in 2021. Still, such delicious memories of Jamaica and the time before, dark and lush, jungle, full sun days, friendly people in great need for the most part, but with wonderful spirits. Jerk patties and chicken, shrimp, red stripe beer, reggae music lofting in the air. You hold me snugly on the tin roof at Sister Dee's among the closer stars. Thank you for listening this long. Thanks for listening. I appreciate that. Wow. This has been so fun. Does anyone want to unmic and say anything? It's just been such a delight.
Amy, I can read one poem if you have time.
We do have time. Let's do that.
Yeah. Can I read without the video?
Yes, that would be perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, give me a second. Am I what you wanted? Dedicated to my mother. Am I what you wanted? Really? How you wanted? Did you dream the dreams for me? That I be spared the wrath of evil? By just be plain, except for my smile, seeing beauty in anything and everything, so that I can will my heavens out of nothing, even in the darkest night, call them angels with my smile, whenever I close my eyes and think of you, Mom, my magnificent day. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Would anyone else like to read? Okay, looks like we're good. I've had a wonderful time. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much,
Amy, that was
everyone.
Jamaica, West Indies, right?
Yes.
Initially, my mind went straight to Jamaica, Queens, but I realized when you're taking us in, a very intriguing experience of the Caribbean. So yeah, nicely done.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Hope it wasn't too long.
Fine. It's great.
It was exciting.
Oh, yeah. Good. I'm glad.
Amy, can you tell me when the next Gestalt is?
Yes, it is October 23rd at 1 p.m. And I'll put the Zoom link in the event. I'm making it over the weekend, probably early next week. Gary Huskisson is our feature poet, and it's costume friendly.
Yeah, I hate Halloween though, so.
Oh, you don't have to wear a costume.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, so blessed to see everyone today. It's so good to see you. Thank you all for being here.
Julian and I think one more propaganda poet came from Unmesh's Virtual India. He does a program as well.
Oh, wow.
So we came from there to come to you. We had an hour to chill.
That's good, as long as you have a little breathing room in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. I'll get this out. You're so welcome. And have a blessed evening or morning or wherever you are, a blessed period of time.
You too. You too.
Thanks, Amy.
So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good to see you. Good night.